Hey guys, Claire here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about all things Harry and Meghan related. Now, before we get started, Spare has officially returned to the #1 spot on the New York Times bestsellers list, so congratulations to Prince Harry and his team. Now, this week has been a week of highs and lows when it comes to information or news related to Harry and Meghan. Now, of course, we got to see Meghan wearing a beautiful gold dress, which of course sold out within like an hour or two. So that's no surprise. Also, the clutch that she was wearing from Carolina Herrera, the brand itself posted about her wearing their beautiful clutch, so that was nice. And of course, we got to see Meghan accept her award and give a spectacular speech as always. And of course, things took a turn for the worse. Waking up the next day, reading about the stories of the paparazzi car chase, and as usual with everything related to Harry and Meghan, there's been a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of, the usual naying from the naysayers, the UK tabloids, the royalists who love to obsess over Harry and Meghan all day, every day on social media, the usual suspects. So we're not gonna get into that because at this point it's just so tiresome, because facts and logic and details and common sense, empathy and compassion are things that are completely lost on a particular subset of these individuals, and it doesn't matter what you say or do, they're never gonna get it because they don't want to. It's either you're incredibly dumb or you're being deliberately obtuse. Either way, I am not going to waste my time going back and forth with people like that. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't,
Meghan and Harry had quite the night. It started out very glamorous with a lot of acclaim. Meghan got an award, and it was a very glitzy event. We'll get into that in a minute. But the headline turns out not to be what happened at the event, it's what happened after.
Right. As their spokesperson describes it, and as we have confirmed with independent sources, that there was a harrowing, in fact, they say near catastrophic 2-hour chase around New York City, paparazzi chasing them, and it all started right here. This is around 10 p.m. as they left the Ziegfeld Theater and they got into their SUV. Well, what happened once they got in that SUV is a chase that at times got up to speeds of 80 miles per hour. And I know you may be thinking, where in New York City are you going to drive 80 miles per hour?
That would be the FDR.
The FDR Drive on the east side of Manhattan. They were doing 80, trying to shake photographers who were chasing them.
And they were right on their tail.
Yeah, and this was not just Harry and Meghan in their single SUV. They actually had an entourage that, it's clear that they anticipated some of this.
Clearly, they were in an SUV. There were 2 security SUVs that were tailing them, and then there was a 4th SUV that eventually was used to try and block traffic to thwart the paparazzi that were following them.
Right.
Now, they say that pedestrians were almost hit, cars were almost hit, a couple of police officers almost
were involved,
hit.
right?
So I know this sounds crazy, but we have confirmed, like Charles said, that this really did last 2 hours. So there were times when they went to various police stations trying to get some help.
Trying to get help or trying to shake the paparazzi. So the video we're about to show you, this is them almost an hour and a half after leaving the theater. They've been in this chase. They've been on the FDR going 80 miles per hour. And now they've gone back to a police precinct and they get into a yellow cab. They get out of their SUV. They get into a yellow cab.
And it's to shake the paparazzi. They're figuring nobody would think they'd get in the yellow cab, so they get in it at the police station and drive away, and they're thinking we're going to shake the paparazzi.
But
that did not happen.
Clearly, you can see the paparazzi knew they were there. That's their security guard who gets out of the front seat and is trying to get the photographers to back up.
You can see the thinking behind getting in a yellow cab. It might blend in more with all of the other yellow cabs in New York City, so they could sort of make a hasty retreat and lose the paps, but it didn't work at all. And this does sound absolutely harrowing. People driving the wrong way, apparently cars getting up on sidewalks. And for Harry, this has to be traumatizing because his mother was killed during a pap chase in Paris in 1997 when he was just 12 years old. So all those memories had to come flooding back when he's in the car.
So this cab that left that police station kind of circled apparently and then came back, I don't know, 15 minutes later.
10, 15 minutes later, goes back to the precinct. They get out of the cab.
And got back in the SUV that they were in originally because I'm guessing here they didn't want the cab driver to
be involved in a...
Yeah, well, also, they don't know how good of a driver he is.
Yeah. And by the way, the cab driver himself might have been like, I don't want any part of this. I didn't know that there was a chase going on.
Right.
So they
came back to the precinct, got in an SUV, and this lasted until midnight. Now, a lot of people have kind of suggested or wondered, why didn't they just go to the place where they were going to stay? Well, the answer we got was they didn't want bedlam at that place. They were staying at a friend's house.
Right, staying at a friend's house, private residence, and they had the photographers following them at that point. They just didn't want to bring all of that chaos to their friend. And so they made the decision to drive around until it all died down. And
so their people issued this statement.
Last night, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and Ms. Ragland, because Meghan's mom was there, were involved in a near catastrophic car chase at the hands of a ring of highly aggressive paparazzi. This relentless pursuit, lasting over 2 hours, resulted in multiple near collisions involving other drivers on the road, pedestrians, and 2 NYPD officers. While being a public figure comes with a level of interest from the public, it should never come at the cost of anyone's safety. So, yeah, I got to imagine once we got the information about them being on the FDR and doing 80 miles an hour,
it all made sense.
That is the moment where Harry's got to think, this is what happened to my mother.
This is what happened to my mother.
Because they were speeding through that tunnel in Paris, trying to avoid the paparazzi.
So you got to wonder, and this is something we talked about today in our morning meeting, that, why this and not when, say, Kim Kardashian or just the other day, we showed you Taylor Swift coming out of a recording studio at 2 in the morning, and there were all these paparazzi there, but they stayed. And there's a difference.
I think the big difference here, and Charles pointed this out, is the rarity of the occasion. Right. I mean, these are the royals in New York. You don't see them all the time. Kim goes back and forth between New York, so those photos are somewhat less valuable, for lack of a better word, even given how famous she is. You don't see Meghan and Harry out all that often in New York, so those photos can be very, very valuable.
It's interesting, too.
And particularly overseas.
And that's
what all those photographers were thinking, but that's not a justification for what went on there last night.
And, they are in Southern California. That's where they live. They live in Montecito. They've been coming to L.A. on a fairly regular basis these days.
Right.
It hasn't happened in L.A. either.
Right.
But I think part of that is that they are here, and I guess people kind of acclimate to that. And for whatever reason, because we thought, when we first heard about this morning, we thought the paparazzi would probably try and tell a different story. They didn't. They told the same story that Harry and Meghan told, essentially.
This is a shame and unfortunate, and it's really a shame on the paparazzi for reenacting this, because like you guys said, this is traumatizing for Harry. He already went through this. So, I mean, it's just a terrible thing that they can't see it within themselves that they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, and it lasts, again, when we first heard 2 hours, we thought, how could that be?
Right. 2 hours driving around Manhattan.
But it was.
It's not that big of an island, but,
Okay.
I spoke to Chris Sanchez on the phone. He was part of the security detail. He used to be with the Secret Service. He told me, I've never experienced anything like this. What we were dealing with was very chaotic. There were about a dozen vehicles, cars, scooters and bicycles. The public were in jeopardy at several points. It could have been fatal. So that's what they were dealing with, Brianna, and they're clearly very shaken up.
Happened very close to here. When we were leaving the building yesterday, there was nothing but cameras all over the place, and I was trying to figure out what happened. And I guess, she was leaving the ballroom. But they said that the paparazzi allegedly hit like 6, 7 cars over there, and they said it was a big thing.
That's what we were told yesterday.
They said they hit the cars?
Yeah. We were told that yesterday. We were told that the paparazzi was going around the block because I guess she was in a building over here. She was in an event over here or something.
What is it, the Siegfried Ballroom over there? Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
And they was like paparazzi was hitting cars.
Yeah.
Trying to get a picture of her.
Trying to get a picture, which is weird because in New York City, you really don't see wild paparazzi crazy like that chasing people because you see so many people. You don't really have that, here. But
y'all losing y'all damn mind over Meghan Markle. Come on, stop.
Well, they allegedly said it was no actual collision, so I don't know if they meant hit, resulting in an injury or accident or what.
These were parked cars.
Parked cars.
Yeah, these were
parked cars.
Yeah. The security told us that yesterday. Security literally told us yesterday. Meghan Markle was at the ballroom or whatever last night.
Ballroom,
and paparazzi kept going around in circles just to get a picture of her, and they was hitting parked cars.
Yeah.
But public safety must always be at the forefront. The briefing I received, 2 of our officers could have been injured. New York City is different from a small town somewhere. You shouldn't be speeding anywhere, but this is a densely populated city. And I think all of us, I don't think there's many of us who don't recall how his mom died. And it would be horrific to lose an innocent bystander during a chase like this and something to have happened to them as well. So I think we have to be extremely responsible. I thought that was a bit reckless and irresponsible.
Aggressive photographers for 2 hours in New York City after an awards ceremony. A bit earlier, we spoke to Simon Morgan. He's worked as a police protection officer for senior royals, and he explained the mindset of some of the paparazzi.
But I did speak to one of them and I said, look, you're taking the same photograph over and over again. We are just walking from a restaurant into a car and we're leaving. I said, why are you doing it? You must have hundreds of photos like this. And the reply was, and it did make me take a step back. And the guy just said, well, this could be the last picture of Prince Harry alive and I've got it. And therefore that to me is worth millions.
There was someone who reportedly works for the British tabloids who don't get along with Meghan and Harry, screaming at Meghan, and specifically he screamed, how does it feel that you ruined 2 families? Okay? Then they get into the car, and now the pursuit happens, right? Now the paparazzi are following them because, of course, they want that photo. They've already yelled that thing at her. Now they want the photo of her going like, or whatever, so that they can publish any photo of them looking a certain way and us coming to a conclusion, just like we did with Ben and J-Lo last week.
I'm so glad that we got that context because I feel like when I saw these headlines yesterday, you see the word catastrophic and you think, okay, like physical harm or what happened? And then it becomes a he said, she said sort of situation. I don't think it should be a he said. Like, paparazzi are dangerous. They are historically dangerous. This is a family that has been affected by historically dangerous paparazzi. So I think the bigger conversation that we should be having, because admittedly, I get a little nervous when they're in the headlines about being like, what's actually happening here? I know there's been a lot up and down, the roller coaster of them. So I was a little skeptical at first, but hearing that context helps because this is messy, this is dangerous, and Harry is the son of, of Princess Di. Like, I think we should be more careful with celebrities, especially with paparazzis and Harry.
What the case is, speaking to people around the protective detail that was assigned to this, was they were overwhelmed by paparazzi. These were people in cars. These were people on motorcycles. These were people on scooters that had surrounded the vehicle in midtown traffic. And now you've got the NYPD team that is the protective detail behind the principal car. And there's scooters and motorcycles running in between them, ahead of them, crossing in front of them. They're trying to create some distance, and this is becoming worse and worse. So finally, in frustration, they made a command decision of, trying to first slow down traffic, block a street, and get some distance. That didn't work because then the scooters and the motorcycles flew down the sidewalks with pedestrians scattering. So they went to the 19th precinct. That's 67th Street in Manhattan. They blocked off both ends of the street. They created basically a buffer. And then they spent some time, trying to cool down from this and say, all right, what's our strategic plan to get to the next location without bringing this entire crowd?
I cannot begin to imagine how next level traumatizing this was for Harry after what happened with his mother, Diana, who did not survive this literal exact situation. Only he's got his wife and his mother-in-law in the car and 2 kids at home to think about. Like, this man has seen active duty, and I don't think that was anything compared to what just happened here. And at what point do we acknowledge that public figures deserve to have private lives and deserve to have the same human right to privacy that the rest of us get to take for granted? And I never ever want to hear, and I have never wanted to hear anybody say that somebody gives up those things when they choose to put themselves in the spotlight in any way. I'm sorry, that's not how life works. It's not okay for this to happen to anybody. And if you think otherwise...
So let's do a timeline of events of what has happened and what we have found out about the car chase that happened with Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and her mother on Tuesday in New York. There has been a lot of information that has come out over the last day. So as of 10 a.m. this morning, my time, this is May 18th, 2023. Let's see where we're at currently. So at 10 p.m. we have Harry, Meghan, and Doria leaving the Women of Vision Award in a black SUV. They had parked next door at a rental enterprise trying to avoid the press. Didn't work out. New York City Police Department statement said that they escorted them with a small number of cars, motorcades, and scooters, and that photographers had made transportation of the couple challenging. Officers attempted to make evasive maneuvers to get away from the paparazzi, and the paps began to drive on the sidewalks to keep up. Several short stops had to be made because of the paparazzi driving backwards and driving on the sidewalks. Thomas Buda, who's a part of H&M's security team that night, said vehicles ran red lights while pedestrians were on crosswalks and drove into oncoming traffic on 34th Street in Manhattan, driving the wrong way down one-way streets. And then we had 2 senior law enforcement sources say that Harry and Meghan were trying to lose the paparazzi before returning to their host residence to keep the pops from finding out where they were staying, and that they had drove up and down FDR, a main thoroughfare of Manhattan's east side, for 75 minutes trying to lose the paparazzi and were unsuccessful in doing so. They said that this went on for 75 minutes. Harry and Meghan and Doria then at 11:15 arrive at the 19th Precinct Police Department on 67th Street. My estimated time of 11:30, the group enters the taxi cab. We have the cab driver on record now confirming that they had been tailed by a black Honda Accord and a gray Honda CR-V. They drove for a block and a half, and in the time, the 2 cars kept pulling up beside them, taking photos and videos. The security guard had to get out at one point and tell the paparazzi to back off. And then security grew concerned for their exposure level and asked the taxi driver to return them to the police station. The taxi driver said that the trip only lasted about 10 minutes, so we have them arriving back at the police station at 11:40. Around 12 o'clock, we have Harry and Meghan calling in a different taxi to come pick them up. And from their security officer, Thomas Buda, he says that with the help of the midnight patrol shift change, they were able to choke point the road and allowed Harry and Meghan to escape without being followed. As the story develops, I'm sure we're going to find out more information, but at this point, this is everything we know that has happened, and as the story develops, I will keep you updated on that.
It's plain and simple it's dangerous, isn't it? It's plain and simple that it's dangerous. It's plain and simple that it shouldn't be allowed to happen simply to get a photograph. Some of the reporting of it seems to me to be like, well, it's not really catastrophic, is it? Well, what do you want? A dead baby in a pushchair on the street? Someone else killed or injured in the middle of the process? Someone dying of a heart attack with the fright of it? What do you want? What do you want? Is it only truthful if it's a crash at 90 miles an hour in a tunnel, into a pillar in a French tunnel? Is that what people want? There's something very sick at the heart of this, and yet all the focus seems to be on, well, just how truthful are the Duke and Duchess? Harry, in particular, has warned that people are going to die if this kind of behaviour doesn't stop. And I don't think he's wrong, is he? Either the hounding or the physical chasing and hounding that goes on. We've seen how hounding has led to people taking their own lives. hounding by tabloid has led to people taking their own lives. We've seen what it does to people's sanity. We've seen what hacking has done to people's sanity and the people they can trust or not trust, royals and others. There's something sick here, isn't there? There's something sick.
This at face value, just think a little bit about what it means. When you remember how Prince Harry's mother Diana died on the streets of Paris, fleeing paparazzi in just the same way, then it's hard to begin to imagine what that must have felt like for Harry, or Meghan, or her mother Doria, who was with them in the taxi. He has been spied on and pursued all his life. The people who do this, trying to sell pictures to the papers who think the rest of us want them, do we really, are revolting individuals, and any publication which touches their corrupt wares deserves, in my view, to be blacklisted.
Look, I know parasocial relationships are a thing and that I don't really know these people, but he just wrote an amazing book about how traumatic it was to lose his mother in a car accident with paparazzi. I know exactly how traumatic it was for him particularly, but both of them and her mother to go through this. Will they ever leave them alone? What are you doing? Why are you almost killing people? People whose mother you already killed.
She didn't want to be assaulted. She shouldn't have been wearing that. That's the energy a lot of y'all are given when it comes to the Harry-Meghan car chase. Oh, they could have used a different exit. Why didn't they just get out and take a picture? It wasn't that fast. All of these things miss the entire point, which is no human, no matter who you are, should ever feel like they're in danger or fear for their lives. That is foundational to the whole idea of universal basic human rights. There's no gray area here. You're either for human rights or you're wrong.
Meghan looks unbothered. She really does.
Honestly, I don't care about the royals, but I really care that us as a society with our parasocial bullshit think that we can look at a picture of a celebrity in a situation that we will never be in our entire life and act like we know just from a single picture what they're thinking and feeling. Because honestly, if I was Meghan Markle and I was in this situation, I would be looking as unbothered as possible because I would be trying to de-escalate this situation for my partner who is going through the single most traumatic experience of their entire life, potentially dying the same way as their mother, 2 weeks after his father takes the crown and probably had this done. I'd be smiling and laughing too. But if you don't understand that that's a potential route that somebody could be taking to comfort their partner, then maybe stop judging celebrities on one picture. Thank you.
To be honest, the reason Meghan Markle has so many haters is because she won. Her life is a Wattpad fanfiction, and they can't stand it. She married a prince, an actual prince, from the most famous royal family in the world, mind you, and he left them for her. Her love story with Harry is a Wattpad fanfiction, word for word, bar for bar, guys. They're so mad that he left this family that they're obsessed with for her, and they would do anything to be around these people, right? I have never cared about the royal family or Harry and Meghan. I don't care about these people. But you know what I love seeing? Meghan Markle haters. You don't understand. It brings me so much joy seeing them so angry all the time. You wish that was you, huh? He left the royal family for you and then moved to America, started a whole new life. It's never going to be you. It's always going to be Meghan, okay? She's the main character in this story.
This is about the kids. They want those kids. If something were to happen to Harry and Meghan, the tabloids would exploit them nonstop with no repercussions. They'd be completely lying on Archie and Lilibet, just like they did for Harry when he was a kid, and Will and Kate's kids now. And Harry already said that they weren't going to stop. And we're witnessing that in real time, folks. Without the protection of their parents, Archie and Lilibet would have to go back to England, where the royal family would then use them as cannon fodder for every single bad PR or press issue that they had. The paparazzi and the royal family would be completely unchecked. And those poor kids would literally be like the black sheep and the target of a narcissistic family structure. And no matter what the outcome would be with this paparazzi situation, if something were to happen and Archie and Lilibet were exposed, the amount of money that the paparazzi would make and the royal family would make just by having them in their custody would largely outweigh the negatives for them in the long run. And if you think that this is out of the realm of reality, this happened exactly to Princess Diana. Her mother took her away from her father when she was younger, but because her father held the aristocratic title, he was able to take the kids back and into his custody. This is not uncommon at all.
I beg. This is not here we go again. This is not here we go. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. A car chase in a tunnel in Manhattan. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not going to. Leave Auntie Meghan and Uncle Harry alone. Leave them alone. You are proving their point. Leave them alone. A car chase in Manhattan. She was just in a charity event looking really good in that dress. I'm going to say, by the way, girl, you were killing that. But leave them alone. Also, this source is from the AP News. It's currently trending everywhere. But, like, I beg. Even on American soil, you'll not leave these people. Lord, help us all. I'm praying for good health for both of you. Praying.
This is part 2 of talking about the Harry and Meghan paparazzi car chase, solely for educational purposes, no hate to anyone involved. Now, the pictures have been leaked. There were paparazzi chasing them this night. And as you can all tell, they were all scared. NYPD has confirmed that the chase begun and lasted 2 hours because they were trying to figure out where they were going for the night, as well as where Archie and Lilibeth were. Archie and Lilibeth are still connected to the Crown in England. There are a lot of political reasons for why the Crown would want Archie and Lilibeth back. Some concerns that I've seen brought up is, wow, this is so close to Diana, what's going on? Yes, the paparazzi are as obsessed with Harry as they were with Diana. As you can see in this article again, she was even scared that they're planning an accident so Charles could marry again. And they even compare Harry quite often to Diana and make statements like, oh, he's going to regret this. They were even warned during royal interviews about car crashes. The paparazzi are obsessed with them, so they are going to try and get all these pictures. Another thing I've seen is, well, why hasn't anyone caught videos? Where was this high-speed chase? No one ever said it was a high-speed chase. It was through the city. They were forced backwards and reversed. They were followed into one-ways. There were red light collisions. Police already confirmed that. When they moved from their SUV to a taxi car driver, this taxi car driver has done some interviews now. He'd only driven them for 10 minutes because they had stopped at a police station, the SUV. They had taken the mom out. Prince and Meghan were also taken out. They were moved into a taxi, and it seems as though they went to different destinations. I think the police at this point had kind of figured out what the paparazzi was trying to do, and the mom was sent to a different location, and Harry and Meghan stayed at a friend's house. They have released statements that they're okay, but they're not going to release any further statements, and the Crown refuses to make any statements, which is odd. What are your thoughts on this?
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.